Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Reality Transformation Gathering, where we are bridging ancient wisdom and modern science to change the world together. This gathering will be a 5-day expansive exploration of the recent breakthrough discoveries in the sciences and quantum theory, psychedelic research, and near-death experience studies, as well as profound and time-tested ancient wisdom from shamanic traditions, indigenous cosmologies, and knowledge from far ancient cultures around the world. I am Jocelyn Starfeather. I'll be your host and guide for the Reality Transformation Gathering. And today I am truly delighted to be here with Keone Hanalei. Welcome, Keone. Thank you so much for being a part of our conference.
I'm so excited to be part of this conference. Thank you for the invitation. And I love the company that I'm in with all these amazing speakers and just the quality and the value of everything that is being shared. It feels just so ripe and so important. So thank you to you, Jocelyn, for being this facilitator to bring all of this information through.
Absolutely. It is my honor and pleasure, truly. And I'm just so happy to have you here as part of it. So I will share a little bit more in the way of introduction for you, Keone, as we begin. So Keone Hanalei is a descendant of the Mu people, the inhabitants of the northwestern Hawaiian island before the migration of the Polynesians through his maternal grandmother's lineage. His maternal grandmother, Kauiki Oonalani, was a well-known healer on the island of Maui. Keone was fortunate to become adopted by his grandmother upon birth, and he spent the first 5 years of his life immersed in ancient practice and mysticism. He is just one of only a handful of practitioners who have access to and are willing to share this ancient archaic knowledge, or pre-flood Ike. Fern medicine, or emotional intelligence, is one aspect of this Ike and dominates what Keone expresses today. This is the legacy of his lineage. Fern medicine is the awareness of the movement of emotions and the release from control fixation. Keone is also versed in ancient primal, meditative, and movement practices, which incite cellular memory, DNA activation, and the comprehension of familial and lineal wisdom through the reading of the nervous system and DNA. And I want to say, Keone, that I'm just always so blown away by your work. I feel like you're always in this visionary space as far as what you bring us, and incredible workshops and presentations online that really are helping us see outside of our, old frameworks of reality and really opening up to new ways of perceiving our world. So thank you so much for all that you do.
Oh, it's my pleasure, and it's truly also my kuli ana, as we say in Hawaiian language, or my responsibility, and not like burdensome responsibility, but like my joy to share. You mentioned my grandmother Kawiki Onalani, and she ensured that it was transferable to me. And I feel like a lot of what I share, it's not a possession. It's something that is meant to be fairly distributed to all of humanity, and so that's just what I feel I'm doing.
Yeah, so beautiful. And so your topic for today is the 9 octopus brains and the 9 properties of light. What an amazing topic. Can't wait to dive into this. So, could you begin by sharing with us what are some of the Mu histories around this being, the octopus?
Yeah. Jocelyn, of all the things that I've been sharing through the years, this is probably one of the most fascinating that I get so many emails and so many people, even who approach me on the streets, who want more information about the octopus. And I feel it's because, and this is through my engagement with these people as well, is because they also have some sort of memory or some sort of resonance with the octopus. And we're all just piecing it together, right? Like, what is the actual symbolism of the octopus? And so I'd love to share with the audience and with you what has been transferred to me in accordance to what the octopus symbolizes and what it means for us right now. So in the Mu doctrines, I live on Maui. My grandmother, who helped to raise me, she was really responsible for transferring the information of the Mu doctrines to me through different modalities, some just through spoken word of sharing of the histories, but also of reading my spinal cord, knowing how to excavate information from my own being, things like that. And one thing that we find is the story of the octopus, what we call the He, or the He Honavela. And to make a long story short, we believe that the octopus is the only surviving relic of the previous universe, which we have a name for in the doctrines, which is Madana. And what this would suggest is that the history of the universes all are a succession of legacies that are playing out. And in every universe, there is a surviving relic from the previous universe as to ensure that the legacy is transferable. And in the doctrines, we are told that everything we need to know about the proper function of this current universe is in the body and the behavior of the octopus. And so the octopus, its very presence is guiding us on how to properly function in this universe, and not just function, but also complete this universe. Because remember, this is a succession of legacies. This universe must also be complete. And when we talk about the properties of light, this is going to be a really huge topic of humanity, once again, remembering how to actually complete something, because there is a discord when it comes to humanity and our perception of how to complete things. And so when we look at the body and the behavior of the octopus, some things can stand out, and that is that it has these, 8 tentacles, it has 3 hearts, it actually has 9 brains because it has a brain for each tentacle, and then it also has a central brain that perhaps informs all of the other brains or the other tentacles. One thing that I do want to preface before we go into sort of looking at those tentacles and those brains is that overall, what we can perceive the octopus is exhibiting to us is electricity. It's an electrical being, which could suggest that the previous universe, the entire legacy of the previous universe of Madana is electricity, meaning that in this universe, electricity could not exist if it weren't for the proper completion of the previous universe. I always love to, share it like this, because then we begin to ask questions, right? It's like, oh, well, then what is this universe's legacy? What are we to complete in this universe? And maybe this is, Jocelyn, I love engaging with you, right? Jocelyn, what do you feel is the legacy of this universe?
Mm, wow. What a beautiful question. What comes through for me more than anything is love. Love.
Yeah.
Is that the right answer?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
wow.
would agree with you. I would definitely feel like this is this universe. Our legacy is love, which means we must allow it to be transferable to the next universe. And one thing that we can feel of how love is complemented by electricity is our emotions. You and I, as human beings, the greatest stimulant and stimulus of our experience of an electrical world is our emotions. And so perhaps it is our fluency in our emotions that will allow us to come into proper authority of love. Because what I know and feel and remember about love when it comes to emotion is that love is so colossal that it's not considered a singular emotion. It is the culmination of all our emotions. And so emotional intelligence for me, the I would say the pinnacle of emotional intelligence is for us to come into fluency of the experience of all emotions, to come into the actual totality of love, to which the world to which we experience in the universe, we can perceive that this is a world made up of physical forms, of material. And what I know about love in its totality is that it's so colossal that a world of form cannot hold it. That would be the transfiguration and the transcendence of this universe, because this universe will collapse because it cannot hold love. But we must come to that point of experiencing love in its totality for this universe to collapse, which will signal its actual completion. And so we can see sort of how these legacies are complementing one another, and why the design of the succession is so incredibly important too. So electricity seems to be what the octopus exemplifies as a whole. And then we can go into and maybe disseminate some parts of this electrical experience to come into further comprehension of how we engage with that in this reality.
I
Yes.
have a question before you go on.
Yeah.
Feels important to ask. So, what you described there about if we were to fully, uh, as I understood it, fully feel and express all the love that is possible, this universe will collapse. Is this why we're so afraid to love deeply? That would be such a huge transition.
I love that, Jocelyn. I love that. I feel you're onto something. I feel you're onto something because what is something that we experience in this reality that is likely conditioned? It's attachment. It's attachment, which prevents us from honoring something to be complete. And we can even feel like, we are the ones who are sabotaging the completion of this universe. When I look out into, like, I look at the stars, right? And it's not only about what I visually see, but like when I feel, right, the stars and I feel the cosmos, there's a ripeness that maybe is foreign to humanity, where humanity is not allowing itself to experience its ripeness. There's some pushback.
Yeah.
And, like I was sharing, when I feel into the universe, when I feel into there's just this sense of ripeness. And so I feel like humanity is so loud within the entire universe because perhaps we're the final frontier. This doesn't mean that we're more special or unique than anything else that exists in this universe, but perhaps we're the final frontier. And this kind of sparks my interest too, because many of us agree that we're being observed. Humanity, the earth specifically, is being observed, but there's non-intervention, which is a code of conduct, right? And perhaps we're being observed because everything and everyone, right, all the qualities of this universe, they're like, come on, humans, come on. Right? They're
I feel
clearly
that. I really do.
totally me too. And I don't feel like any urgency applied onto us. I don't feel any shame. I don't feel like there's any disgrace upon us. I feel like they're championing us. It's like, yeah, oh, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. Like you're almost there. And so, having conversations like you're having in this entire conference is so important so that I feel like we can ease ourselves into the allowance of what gets to be accomplished in order for us to join the federation of this universe so we can go into proper completion and experience the totality of love. And so with these 9 properties of light that correlate to the 9 octopus brains. This is what I really want to focus on today. Of course, there's so much, right? We can go into the octopus, there's so many pieces, but let's focus on the brains and what this is likely telling us. From what we can retrieve from the doctrines and what I know from my own memory is that the number of brains of the octopus correlate to the proper and accurate properties of light. Of course, one thing that we can correlate to electricity is also light. And one thing that's very peculiar, Jocelyn, is that we are told in mainstream that there are only 7 properties of light, which would suggest that there's a piece of sabotage in there. We've omitted 2 properties so that we are not properly completing something. And let's feel into the designation of those brains of the octopus. 8 of them are for tentacles, and we can feel like tentacles are to reach. They're to accumulate, they're to feel, they're to touch, they're to experience, they're all reaching. And so we are likely honoring those because we're so inquisitive, but that central heart, that is likely one of the omitted properties of light, that central heart that's bringing everything into a kind of home. I would even say that one of the other tentacles is also omitted, the proper property of light, because it's that to which lends to the fluency of the experience of the other 7 properties of light. So the 2 omitted properties are, 1, the alpha. The alpha is the property of revelation. that's already very problematic that we don't have access to our alpha. And I'll get into that a little bit of how significant that is. The other property of light that is omitted is omega, and that's completion. It's the property of light of completion that is also omitted. So now we have alpha and omega that are omitted. You know what that means? That means we're locked in time. We're stuck in time. Because without the alpha and the omega, we're not experiencing things spherically. We're experiencing everything very linearly, which means we're locked in time. And I want to just speak on behalf of time for a moment because it gets such a bad rap, right? But time, what's the other word for time? Measurement. Measurement. You know, we couldn't be the beautiful artists and designers if it wasn't for measurement. So blessed be measurement, blessed be time. The only reason why we would feel opposition to time is if we feel stuck in it. That's the only reason.
Right.
And so it's not this enemy. It's just that we feel stuck in it because there is likely an omission of the alpha and the omega. And so we cannot complete the sphere. We're locked in time. And you know, before I go any further, I do want to list the other properties as well, just so that we have that on the table. But sister, is there anything you want to share about what this potential exclusion and omission of the alpha and the omega?
Yeah, I really as you were saying that, I felt it kind of viscerally, and it's almost like we can't do our new beginnings and our endings like we need to, and that feeling of being trapped. I mean, it's almost like the cycle of birth, life, death, and rebirth that we are continually going through. And everything in creation is continually going through cycles of the seasons and the moon and the in the year and everything. It's almost like we're unable to end a cycle, begin a new cycle, and have that cyclical aspect to time and our lives and all that we are.
Yeah, sister. Yes. That alpha, we can even feel that it's that to which is informing everything. And one thing that we feel, right, humanity, and this could be a personal story to us individually, but we experience something called amnesia. And one of the, I would say the things that qualify amnesia is we don't know how we're being informed, like blueprint, right? If you exclude the alpha, I don't know how and why I'm being informed, which is why the collective humanity is, you know, so eager to mimic what it sees on the exterior conditions, because otherwise, how do we know how to function if we can't just mimic something until we restore that alpha and then we receive the codes, right? And the codes example would be memory of the previous universe, right? Memory of true electricity, memory of how to truly engage and then accomplish experience our emotional experience here as well. In the restoration of the alpha, that's all provided for us. And thus, you know, amnesia just sort of just dissipates. It's something, it's an antiquated energy now. Um, I do want to share with the audience what the traditional properties of light, and because of the omission of the alpha and the omega, I refer to this is just me, okay? I refer to these as the properties of time. And so this is how we kind of engage and experience time, is with these 7 properties of light. And they would be reflection, refraction, diffraction, interference, polarization, dispersion, and scattering. So these are really constructing time. Those first 3, reflection, refraction, and diffraction, in the doctrines, these are known as the demiurge. The demiurge. A way that I can share what the demiurge is that it's how things take shape. It's the actual fashion. And so we're materializing. And I just want to share with the audience, and I love to remind myself this all the time, but in order to spiritualize, you must first materialize. There's no such thing as spiritualization without materializing first. That too is a protocol. And so these first 3, reflection, refraction, diffraction, they're what constitutes the demiurge. And so it's what designs the actual fashion of who and what we are. Things must take shape. And then the 4 that follow the demiurge, interference, polarization, dispersion, and scattering. Those are the sensational experience and interactive experience we have once things take shape. So they themselves are very beautiful, very purposeful. But with the omission of the alpha and the omega, we can seem like we're being confined to them. And I'm going to get into a little bit of how we experience that confinement, because we are such expansive beings that confinement is unnatural for us. And so we have to figure out ways on how to cope with that in the absence of the alpha and the omega. So to share with the audience how I have come to perceive this is, in the absence of the alpha and the omega, we exist in a parameter-based reality. A parameter-based reality. Jocelyn, what are some things that you maybe intuitively feel constitutes a parameter?
Hmm. Yeah. Well, it feels like limitations, rules, regulations.
Yep. Yep.
Oh, laws, these sorts of things. Even, I often feel as I'm sitting in my nice comfy home, but that we're not supposed to be inside of these square walls. We're biological beings. We're meant to be out there under the trees and connecting with the earth. And, the so even these walls could be a parameter.
Yeah, sis, and you hit it right there. You said limitation. And yeah, that's what a parameter-based reality is we're all agreeing on limitations. And perhaps what is informing this need for limitation is control. It's control. We need to predict so that we can control. And what happens within that, and this is how it can go into like kind of dangerous territory, is we begin to translate that as comfort. It's comfortable to control. It's comfortable to be controlled. It's comfortable to be predicted. It's comfortable to be able to predict. And so we become seduced in a parameter-based reality. But like I was sharing, we are such expansive cosmic beings and quantum beings that it's so unnatural for us to exist in a parameter-based reality. So what we end up doing is we end up repeating things over and over and over and over again. Some people will call that past lives, or we're repeating timelines, but we have to move. As cosmic electrical beings, remember the octopus says, you're electricity. As cosmic electrical beings, we have to move. I mean, this is even the law of entropy, of thermodynamics. We have to move. And if we perceive ourselves to be in a parameter-based reality, what we're going to do and how we reconcile that is we just end up repeating over and over and over again. The unfortunate thing with repeating things over and over again is we end up being uninspired. It's like this, right, Jocelyn? We're bored.
Yeah, if we keep moving around inside of our own limitations, I mean, that's terribly boring.
Totally, totally, right. And so we're uninspired. And, this is part of I would say, not to get a little provocative here, but the agenda of transhumanism is when we just feel uninspired as cosmic beings with agency. We're uninspired of our own power and capability that we just assign ourselves to transhumanism. And so removing the parameters is what we get to do now. And I love to say that with enthusiasm.
Yay.
Yeah, right, Jocelyn.
Very
Like,
exciting.
totally. It's not scary, right? Because this is the thing. If we truly perceive that parameters is what gives us comfort, and many of us hold comfort above truth even, that's going to be very scary territory to remove those parameters, to remove the borders, which is a huge topic right now globally, right? And we see the reaction of people, even when we share things like that. People are very, very enamored and seduced in parameters because of that comfort, but also because we have this idea that it offers us safety. But the enthusiasm of removing the parameters is what we get to come into and celebrate with one another, to evolve into I say evolve, but also to just remember, right? What I call a diameter-based reality. We are coming from a parameter-based reality, which is a collective agreement. Nothing or no one did anything wrong. It's just been a collective agreement. It's been an experiment, and now we're like, okay, we're good. We got it. We got the parameter-based reality. Let's go to the diameter-based reality now. And so, Jocelyn, what do you feel about even like anything you want to share about diameter?
Hmm, interesting. Diameter. I mean, I'm thinking of the diameter of a sphere, but I'm also thinking that sphere can expand and then the diameter can expand, and it's like there's no limit there.
Yeah, yeah. The great thing about diameter-based reality is that it's comprised of two radius. That's really like I would say even like a just a mechanical like explanation. It's designed of two radius. And the reason why I want to bring that up is because the two radius is alpha and omega.
Mm.
And the alpha omega is reinstated. Something really beautiful happens. There's an epicenter right there. And the epicenter is a response to the opposing forces of the alpha and the omega. We can feel like the alpha and the omega feel so separate from one another, like it's definitive, right? That's alpha, that's omega. But what we perhaps don't perceive is that in their opposition, they're creating something called sacred tension. Sacred tension, where all their force and their power is colliding in the middle, in that epicenter. We can feel that that is, with like quantum energy, but it's something even far greater than quantum energy. It's known as 0 point, or even what 0 point informs, and that's gravity. Now, the important thing about gravity is that it's the only thing that we know to be atemporal, which means not governed by time.
Hmm.
There it
Got
is.
it.
There it is. Right? All our battle with time, because we live in this parameter-based reality, when if we come back into a diameter-based reality, honor the alpha and the omega. The opposing forces of those energies collide at the epicenter, to which is our gravitational force, not governed by time. So that alpha, and let's give more context now to alpha energy. And the best way I can describe what alpha energy is for all of us individually, and it's so fun and it's so great, it basically is, Jocelyn, in your life, in this universe, you are the strongest gravitational force. That's it. For me, yeah, right. I
Amazing.
I am the strongest gravitational force in my life. This
Mm.
also would suggest that, Jocelyn, you are truly in your life, you are the center of this universe. I'm the center of this universe. There's nothing arrogant about that. That's just basic truth. It's basic truth. When you and I can affirm, I am the strongest gravitational force in my life, we've just reunited with our alpha. And the important part about that is that if I can affirm that I am the strongest gravitational force in my life, I also have access to that which is atemporal within me, or not governed by time. Now, there's this very fashionable way to which unity consciousness has been shared. And I believe the way that unity consciousness has been shared that is very accurate, but perhaps needs a little more definition, is music of the spheres. Yes, that is unity consciousness. I myself have been a little jaded and bored of sort of the mainstream definition of unity consciousness, which is like everyone does this and everyone is this. Yeah, that's called assimilation. That's not unity consciousness. Unity consciousness is music of the spheres, which means you as a gravitational force with your alpha, you are this instrument. We are all these instruments that are just coexisting with all the other instruments that lends itself to an orchestration.
Mhm.
That's the sound that I feel will call in the completion of this universe. We all must exercise and share our pitch, our sound from the instrument that we are as the music of a sphere to lend itself to the orchestration. That's alpha energy. Is there anything you want to share about your memory of alpha energy, sister?
I just love what you're sharing here. It's so powerful. And I just want to say I think this is absolutely key to how we create new realities. What you said here about each of us is the gravitational center of our own universe, and we create from there. We
Yes,
truly are creator beings from that space. So that's one thing that feels so important to
yes.
say. Um, I can't remember what your question was, but that's what came through.
I love it. Yes, no, it is. It's of paramount right now that we all allow ourselves to come into that recognition free of the arrogance, like, oh, you're not supposed to say that. And then also to allow others to be their own gravitational force. You know,
Yes.
when I'm not my own gravitational force, that means I'm going to be pulled into someone else's gravitational field. I asked the spiritual community over 8 years of my own research because I was very curious, Jocelyn, because the spiritual community, it's so expansive. And that's why I really appreciate it. You can just go, right? Speaking of no limitations. So I was very curious. I'm like, well, what do you fear then?
Mm.
What do you fear? And the common response I've gotten after 8 years of research is fraud, fraud,
Oh, wow. Mhm.
to be deemed a fraud. And that's likely a consequence of being sucked into someone else's gravitational field and then assuming an identity that is not one's own, that's being informed by a different gravitational field. So in the Mu Doctrines, which is very similar to Egypt, and I know you just came back from Egypt, so perhaps this will be a fun, stimulating little piece to this conversation. But we also have something very similar in the transfiguration process and protocol, and we call it the measurement of the heart. The measurement of the heart.
Amazing.
Now, another thing about the octopus is it has three hearts. It has three hearts. Let's feel it like this. The three hearts represent the two radius, alpha and omega, and the epicenter. So the heart, human heart, is a vortex. It is likely that to which is consolidating that gravitational field within us. The moment that our heart stops beating is likely likened to the event horizon of a sudden spontaneous black hole technology, where we perhaps go to the next universe, but
Mhm.
that's within the heart. And so there is this protocol of transfiguration in the Mu doctrines that's called the measurement of the heart. Now, what's interesting about the measurement of the heart is that it's not measured by right or wrong, good or bad. There's no mention of right or wrong, good or bad. It's measured by authenticity.
Oh, wow.
Authenticity. If you go to the Lanai, which we call the limbo, okay, it's where the heart is measured. If you go to the limbo and you present your heart, but it's been plagiarized, meaning I'm in someone else's gravitational field, I'm in academia, I'm in what people tell me constitutes a good person, so I better obey. We do all of that. We're not presenting our true heart. So the Hokupo'okoi, or the Star Council at the Lanai, will take the heart and they'll say, we've already measured this heart. This is not your heart. You have to go back and repeat over and over again until you remember how to show up with your own heart. Authenticity. That alpha will ensure that we have access to our own authenticity. And it's not about overpowering others. It's not about imposing. It's not about manipulating others to believe what I believe in. It's truly just about us exemplifying our own memory in this world. That's our pitch. That's the music. That's our instrument that lends to the orchestration. One thing that we get to experience in this universe, which I feel is just so stimulating and so fun, is that it will always have contrast. Always. And that's why when I was receiving some of the, I would say, the very restricted or parameter-based responses of what unity consciousness is, it's all about assimilation. It's it's an inability to withstand contrast without it feeling so threatening to experience that contrast. And so with that alpha and with that authenticity, it's about coming into your own gravitational field and just having fun with that, experimenting with that, trial and error. So now, Jocelyn, let's visit the omega now. Now remember, alpha and the omega, they seem like the perception is that they are separate from one another, but remember, there's a collision port. The best way I can do this, if the audience is looking at the screen right now, is there is, this is alpha, this is omega. Look what happens.
Mm.
Right in the middle, there's that tension. Okay, it's a collision point of that alpha and the omega. That's the atemporal space. And so omega is going to be indistinguishable from that alpha, but let's feel into ways to which we can explore what omega is. Jocelyn, what do you feel this omega energy can represent?
Mm. So interesting. What is what is coming to mind for me is in the King's Chamber of the Great Pyramid in Egypt. This is one of the things that Robert Edward Grant has recently discovered inside the King's Chamber. On the box, it's not a tomb, it's not a sarcophagus, but on the box in the King's Chamber, Alpha and Omega are written, and I saw them when I was just there on the side of the box. It's incredible. You know, and
Wow.
and these boxes in the pyramids, like I said, they're not tombs. No dead body was ever found there in any of the pyramids. They're resurrection chambers,
Mm,
right? So what comes through for me is the ending, but the ending is always a new beginning.
yeah. Yeah. And you'll literally that's so great, sister, that alpha and omega is exhibited
Right
right.
there. It's right there on
Yeah.
the
Right. Right. And that's even like a plea, right? Like remember Alpha Omega. And then everything in between, right? That we go into like mania and hysterics trying to resolve or trying to come to terms with. If we can just reunite Alpha and Omega, everything will flow just naturally with us. With that Omega piece, of course, its literal word is completion. And so for us to be able to no longer have to accumulate, but to know that we are fulfilled. For an instrument, for that music to have its proper quality, it has to be fulfilled. Unless, we're preventing ourselves from strumming the instrument because we're like, well, I need another string to this guitar, or I need to fine tune this instrument, right? So we're sabotaging its completion when we can just acknowledge that it's fulfilled. Now, here's one way to which you and I as human beings can come into recognition of fulfillment. So the oldest story of humanity is, and this is found in every single tale that you'll read, every single blockbuster movie that we watch, it is the desire or the craving to be the chosen one. It's in every story, every story. With Omega, it's so simple. It's going over all of our heads. It's saying, choose yourself.
Hmm.
Choose yourself. Once we choose ourself, that is indistinguishable from that alpha energy. Remember, alpha is I am the gravitational force. So we just circumnavigated our own experience to arrive back at the self because that is what we have chosen, regardless of the contrast to which we have engaged and enjoyed in. In the culture, we call this alohama, self-reflective love. That is the energy of Omega, is for you and I to have fun, enjoy this experience, right? Everything is converging to where we are because we are that gravitational force. And despite all of the contrast that we experience, we continuously choose ourself. We are no longer requiring others to choose us, which is turned into what patriarchy is. It's all about earning. That's what patriarchy truly is. It's all about earning and who can earn the best. Ultimately, we're trying to earn our approval because we haven't chosen ourselves. We're wanting someone, and this was me, Jocelyn, and I know your story as well, sister. But I did everything I thought I needed to do to excel in other people choosing me to the point of exhaust and bitterness and resentment until I was just like, and then finally I came to that awareness. I'm like, oh my gosh, wait, I can choose myself.
Yes,
Over
it's
all of
so
our
true.
heads, sister. Is there anything you want to share about that circumnavigation?
Yeah, well, the story that you tell of, of your journey and my journey is similar of wanting to check all the boxes and do all the things we're told to do. And I'll never forget that moment of, gazing into my newborn daughter's eyes and realizing I need to follow my own soul now more than ever for the entire world around me, but it's choosing myself.
Yeah.
And it's that it was a moment that changed everything, and I think that's the invitation here that feels like you're giving to us, is take a moment, everybody listening, and choose yourself. choose your own soul.
Mhm. Yes, sister, I feel like that is definitely the message that gets to be shared, is that in the world of contrast and the experimentation of trial and error to which we're all experiencing and enjoying, there's nothing you have ever done to disqualify you of love. There's nothing that you have ever done to make you love yourself less. And so the choosing of the self will reinstate that alpha and the omega. You come into proper, I would say, fluency of that electrical voltage, the experience of love, to which I feel will be the moment that the song, the instrument of the self is ready. It's ripe to share with the instruments of the music of the spheres that exists within this universe. And we can once again be part of that symphony and that orchestration. And just to also apply a little context, I do want to just very briefly share these two uh, historical first and last with the omission of the alpha and the omega. Look at the first, reflection. Reflection. Without the alpha, this could suggest that I am being overpowered by that to which I observe outside of me. So without the alpha, I feel like that's a true story. That was a true story for me. What do I need to do and who I need to be based upon what I observe, what's approved in the exterior conditions, and then I attempt to mimic that. That is in the absence of the alpha. And then the last property of light in the omission of completion, or omega, is scattering. Scattering. Scattering could mean fulfillment, just like we shared. Fulfillment, like I've encompassed the sphere. Scattering, like, oh, I'm free, I'm liberated. Or scattering could also mean I'm shattered. I'm disembodied as well, which is lending to the collective mania. And, with all those scattered pieces, we're also responsible and accountable to reconcile each one of those. And so in the reinstatement of omega, that scattering will then be translated accurately as fulfillment, which of course seems like the most beautiful thing to like usher in a completion, is the recognition, I am fulfilled. This is fulfilled. Wholeness has been determined. There's nothing left undone. I am complete. I am prepared to go into the sudden spontaneous black hole technology of the heart and complete this experience of the human event. And thus, we naturally just transfer this energy of love, because now we become the authority of love in that whole process of completion. Because love is not a possession. If we're hoarding love, oh, that feels very distorted. We're preventing love from being transferred to the next universe. But in the fulfillment and the wholement that can be experienced in that sacred scattering is also us saying, I am complete. This is complete. I'm ready to transfer this into the next universe. And so I feel like the big message today is, first, with the audience, remember, you are the strongest gravitational field in your life. You are the strongest gravitational force. May the force be with you. Right? That comment in Star Wars, it's like when I heard that, I'm like, oh, that's very Mu doctrine there. May the force be with you. You are the strongest gravitational force in your life. This is not a competition, this thing called life. And also, you are fulfilled in that experience of reinstating a diameter-based reality, functioning spherically once again, to where now your instrument is attuned to contribute itself to the symphony, the orchestration that becomes the song that ushers this universe into its ultimate completion and transference into the next universe.
Yes. Feel the power of all of this. And I feel everyone listening, receiving this in a really, really profound and deep way. And I think this concept of ourselves as the instruments is so important. So thank you for bringing that. clarification forward, and that we are each the creating the music of the spheres that's emanating out into the collective.
Yeah, and it's our birthright. We are instruments. We just are. It's just a matter of remembering how to strum your own instrument, right? It takes sometimes we need lessons in life, just like we need lessons to learn how to work an instrument. We are an instrument, and the trial and error that we're all experiencing is just to come into recognition of that. But I feel like the most pivotal step is just to acknowledge that you are an instrument at all. Everything will naturally occur from that, right? Because we're just curious beings. I'm going to start playing around with my instrument. Before you know it, it's like, wow, it's such a beautiful sound. It's natural. No one needs to tell me, or I would even say it's irrational for anyone else to tell me how to play my own instrument. I don't have this right. I can receive your instrument, Jocelyn, but I don't have a right to tell you how to strum your instrument. That's irrational to me. And so allowing the space for all of us to come into recognition that we are instruments, and then the graciousness for us to begin to experiment with how we can come into proper fluency of that.
Yes, amazing. And what a beautiful assignment for us to all come away with.
Yeah.
Is to go out and, I mean, it's an invitation to play, to be, to express, to live, as our fullest selves and our most beautiful creative expression in whatever way that is right for each and every one of us, very, very uniquely.
Mhm.
Yeah, thank you, Keone, for all of this that you have shared with us today. Thank you so much. And I know you have a wonderful gift for everyone attending, which is 15% off at your online store. And would you like to say a few more words about that?
Sure. So in addition to some of the teachings that I do, I'm also a herbalist, and I run an apothecary. And it's another thing that my grandmother taught me how to do: extract botanicals into medicinals, to fragrances, whatnot. So I have a website that I share some of this, and I'm inviting all of you to just go on, browse my apothecary. If something resonates with you, we have a discount code that you can resource. In addition to my apothecary, I teach courses as well. What we just talked about, I actually taught a 5 week course on. And I went through all of these individual properties and disseminated it more into the alpha and the omega. And so on that same website, you can go into my workshop registration and just browse some of the classes that I offer. I also have another class. It's a membership that I teach the ancient Mu breathing, movement, and spinal technique known as Ulu. And this is completely free. And so if you'd like to get to know a little bit more about how you can tap into your own primordial memory by reading your own spinal cord, I teach this 5 month course that can offer you some insights on how you can come into fluency of the reading of your spinal cord. And this free portal is also ongoing. And so join the community. We're a great community of people just remembering.
Yes, amazing. So everybody watching, definitely go and check out these amazing opportunities, including that free membership, which is really wonderful. And you can find the links to all of those right below this video. So go explore and enjoy. And I really just want to thank you, dear brother Keone, for everything you shared here today. It's such a joy, as always, to speak with you and receive these messages of wisdom that I feel are coming through you and from so many generations of your ancestry, to be a gift to us here today. So thank you.
Mahalo, Sister Jocelyn. Such an honor, and thank you to the audience. Aloha ma.
Yes, everybody, I hope you have truly enjoyed this wonderful conversation with Keone today. And I look forward to seeing you again soon in our next interview. And much love to you all.